What's happening, everybody? It's your boy Creative. Go ahead, say it with me. We are back at it again to do what? To create something great. Now, today I'm super excited what I have planned for y'all. We're going to be dropping another episode in our Creative U series. In Creative U, our aim is to be able to break down different financial indicators that you use in your algo trading strategies, right? Being able to really get into the weeds of what AI agents do, the different frameworks that they use and how to really build them and get super into the details for machine learning. Now, today we're going to be going over ADX, and ADX stands for the Average Directional Index. This tells us how strong a move is, right? It doesn't really measure its direction itself. So we're going to be breaking this down. We're going to be building a back test, and so we can actually understand how to use ADX and what it really measures. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So again, what is ADX and what does it stand for? As we stated before, ADX stands for the average directional change, right? It measures the trend strength, not the direction. So that's one thing to be able to keep in mind. ADX, or the average directional index, measures the strength, right? How strong something is, not really the direction in which it's going in. It was developed by J. Wellis Wilder Jr., and ADX tells how strong a trend is, whether it is bullish, we think that the market is going up and the buyers are in control, right? Or if it's bearish, we think the market is going up or the sellers are in control. Now, ADX has a range value, right, from 0 to 100. ADX from 0 to 25, this is a weak or no trend. We're in a ranging market, right? The price is going up and down, no really clear direction, strength, excuse me, as far as where is it really going. When we have ADX between 25 and 50, we have a strong trend developing. When we have ADX between 50 and 75, very strong trend. And then we have extreme trend area, right? This is super rare, but it does happen. We have ADX between 75 and 100. Now, why does ADX matter, right? It helps us filter out the choppy, trendless markets, right? Instead of being able to trade when you're creating your algo bot, right? When you're using ADX, instead of trading in choppy, trendless markets, ADX allows us to be able to see, all right, how strong is this particular move, right? Not the direction, but how strong is the move, right? It confirms if the move is worth trading, and it warns when trends are weakening. ADX works on any time frames from daily, hourly. We use minutes, right? In order for us to being able to create algo strategies. And you'll see that once we're actually creating our back test. So important distinction, ADS tells us how strong the trend is, not the direction. I really want to drill this home here because sometimes individuals think like, oh, okay, ADS is letting me know that this is a bullish market, but it's just letting you know how strong that bullish market is, right? Not really the direction. A stock can have an high ADX while going up or down. So the direction comes from the companion indicators, which is directional indicator plus, directional indicator minus, right? So here's a live look in with SPY to be able to gauge how strong is SPY right now. Now, because I'm recording this on a Sunday and the market is closed, we're taking it from when the market was last open, which was Friday the 9th, right, of January. And then the current price was 694.07, and we have an ADX value of 9.53, right? And SPY is the S&P 500, the top 500 companies within the New York Stock Exchange. So when we have an ADX that is weak, right, it lets us know that we're in a ranging market. And then when we have our directional indicators, the indicators that accompany it to let us know which direction, we have a weak bullish market, right? So that's how we use those two together, right? So just to quickly recap, ADX allows us to be able to tell us the strength, right? And it has a range between 0 and 100. Anything between 0 and 25, we have a weak trend. 25 and 50, we have a strong trend developing. 50 and 75, we have a very strong trend. And then 75 to 100, even though it's rare and it does happen, we have extremely strong trends, right? That's when you super want to be able to get into the market, right? So interpretation, ADX reading of 9.5 suggests that a weak trend or ranging market, and the trend following strategies may struggle here. Consider range bound approaches, right? So let's go ahead and take our quiz. So what does ADX measure, right? The average directional index. What does ADX measure? Does it measure the trend strength? Does it measure the trend direction? That's interesting. or does it measure the price levels, right? Another question mark. So I'll go ahead and wait for a second and allow y'all to answer. And what does ADX measure? The average directional index. Now, if you do remember, and it's up there, ADX measures the strength. So let's go ahead and put A. ADX measures the trend strength, not the direction. It tells how strong the trend is, not which way it's going, right? If you want to know which way it's going, that's where we're going to bring in the directional indexes that is going to accompany the ADX. So ADX with a value of 35 indicates what, right? We are in a weak or a ranging market, right? A strong trend is in a place, a strong trend is in place, or the price will go up. Now let's think about this. Now before, remember, a weak trend is between 0 and 25. So we're not really in a weak trend or ranging market, even though it's right on the cusp of it, right? It's not a weak or ranging market trend. We're in a strong trend is in place, maybe, right? Now remember, ADX doesn't really tells us if the price will go up. It tells us how strong the trend is, right? So it's not necessarily a price gauge, it's a trend gauge, right? It's a trend indicator. So we know it's not A, we know it's not C. So let's go ahead and go with B. Look at that, we got it right. So ADX above 25s indicates a strong trend. 35 is in a strong trend zone. Direction is separate from the strength, right? Can ADX be high during both an uptrend and downtrend, right? So let's think about this. No, ADX only occurs in uptrend. ADX just measures how strong a trend is, right? I don't really care about the direction. It just measures how strong it is, right? It's only high ADX only occurs in a downtrend. I just gave the answer if you was listening, right? Yes, ADX measures strength regardless of the direction, right? So let's go ahead and put C. ADX measures strength only, right? A strong downtrend can have high ADX, just like a strong uptrend. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next lesson. But we get what's happening here, right? So one thing, just to super hone in on what does ADX measure? ADX measures the strength, not the direction, right? So it allows us to be able to let us know if the move has a strong move behind it, right? Strong directional strength behind it, right? So this is our ranges. And we can use ADX on any time period, as you're going to see when we get to our actual back test. So let's go ahead and go to lesson 2. Lesson 2 is going to be the ADX calculation, right? What does ADX stand for? You may see this again. ADX stands for the Average Directional Index, right? So ADX, is calculated through several steps. While complex, understanding this formula helps us appreciate what ADX is actually measuring, right? So step 1, we're going to calculate the true range, or TR. So the TR equals the max of the high and the low, right? And then I have an actual flowchart if this can help you a little bit better. So let me use this, right? So we can actually go through it a bit more, right? So this is how we're going to calculate ADX step by step. And if you need me, let me do that. Okay. So you should be able to see it. All right, beautiful. So first, we're going to take the raw open, high, low, close data, right? And this is going to be coming directly from the market. Then we're going to calculate the true range, right? So this is going to be the max of the high and the low, right? So high minus the previous close, low minus the previous close. And then we're going to have the directional movement, right? So here's where we're going to get, all right, the strength. Here's where we're going to go get the direction, right? So now we're going to smooth out the true range. And this is going to be while there's 14 period smoothing applied here. And then we're going to smooth out the directional movement, right? And then now we're going to get the directional indicators, right? The DI plus a DI minus. And this is how we're going to get the bullish pressure and then bearish pressure. And then step 3 is going to be the directional index, right? It measures the spread, it measures the spread between the directional indicators. And then step 4 is going to be the ADX directional index, right? Remember, key insight, ADX tells us how strong a trend and not which direction. Using the directional indexes, plus or minus, is used for direction. So let's go ahead and go back to our lesson, right? So we just broke this down as to how it actually does it. So we gave you the visual for that. Now let's go through step by step on how to calculate it, right? So we're going to take the raw open, high, low, close data, right? So open, high, low, close is just the movement for SPY throughout the last 5 days, right? And this is what it was, or is, or was. Yeah, I'll say that right. And now we're going to calculate it step by step. Now we're going to take the high and the low, right? And then here's the difference. And then we're going to take the high and then minus the previous close, and then the low minus the previous close. And then here we're going to have, and then the maximum of the 3 is the 6.3. And then we're going to have the directional movement, which is here. And then now we're going to compare the ADX values, right, over the last 10 days. So we can see, right, it hasn't really been as strong, right? It's been more so in a rangy market to open up the year and to close out the year, right? So we've been in a rangy market, not really strong ADX, right? If you're looking at it on the daily chart. So key observations is ADX requires 28 periods to calculate, 14 plus 14 to smooth it out, right? And a period is just a number of minutes. So it needs 28 minutes in order to truly calculate ADX, and the values smooth out over time due to Wilder's smoothing method. The directional index plus or directional index minus show the directional pressure. The directional index measures the spread between the directional plus and the minus, and ADX's smooth version of DX gives us the trend strength, right? Let's go ahead and go to the quiz. True range measures only the high and the low range of the current bar. Interesting. The largest of the 3 calculations, including the previous close, or the average price movement, right? So when something only says only, I kind of want to maybe take that out, but let's see, right? Is it the largest of the 3 calculations, or is it the average price movement? So let's go ahead and put B. All right, true range is the maximum of the high low of the high previous close, low previous close, and this captures the gap. So how many periods minimum are needed to calculate ADX, right? Remember, periods are just a number of minutes. Is it going to be 14? Interesting, maybe. 14 minutes. Is it going to be 28 minutes? That sounds familiar, right? 14 for the directional index, and then 14 for the average directional smoothing, index smoothing, right? Or we have 7 minutes. So let's think about this. So we saw before that it takes 2 sides in order to give us ADX, right? So if it's going to take 2 sides, we're going to know that it's going to be the B. All right, ADX needs 14 periods for the directional calculation, another 14 periods to smooth out the directional index into ADX. Total of 28 minutes minimum. So then question 3 is going to be the directional movement is calculated from the current high minus the previous close, the current close minus the previous close, or the current high minus the current low. So the directional movement, is that calculated from A, B, or C, right? So let's go ahead and go with B. Oh, it was A. So explanation, and I wanted for us to be able to really get this, right? Explanation is that directional movement equals the current high minus the previous high. If positive and greater than the negative, it measures the upward momentum. All right, so let's go ahead and go to lesson 3. Lesson 3 is going to be reading the ADX levels, right? One thing I forgot to go over, and I apologize, right, is the ADX, the strength of it. So when it comes to ADX, right, so it's just a tug of war between the minus directional index and then the plus directional index, right? So we have low ADX of 15. That's letting us know it's lazy pulling, no clear trend, right? So we don't trade this trend when we have a low ADX of 15. But when we have a high ADX of 45, right, what is this letting us know? This is an intense battle. So we have a strong trend and good for trend trading, right? For trend following strategies, right? So ADX is just a tug of war between who's really winning, right? Is it the guys that are trying to pull the price, pull the strength of the price their way, right? A little bit more negative, a little bit more bearish, or is the guys who's trying to put it a little bit more bullish, right? And we have high ADX, we have an intense battle going on, and this is super great for trend following. One thing to be able to keep in mind, again, ADX tells us the intensity of the battle, not who is winning. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and go to lesson 3. Different ADX levels tells us different things about market conditions. Learning to read these levels helps us understand the right trading approach. So here's the scale. ADX between 0 and 15. These are weak or trend ranging, or ranging type of markets. The price is choppy, no clear direction. Trend following strategies will struggle here. Consider range trading or staying out. ADX between 15 and 25. We're developing a trend. Trend is starting to form. We're going to watch for ADX to cross above 25. Early stages, but we need confirmation, right? That confirmation could be volume. That confirmation could be price. That confirmation could be volatility. So we can use many different things in order to confirm it when we have the trend starting to form. When we have a strong trend between 25 and 50, we have clear trend in place, good environment for trend following, and most profitable zones for trend followers, right? And then 50 to 75, a powerful trend. Don't fight it. Be cautious of potential exhaustion. Being able to run it out of momentum. That's what exhaustion. Imagine you running for a mile, right? 2 miles, and then here comes your third mile, right? Are you going to have the same type of momentum when you first started, right? So that's what exhaustion is letting us move. When the move first started, right? When we caught it at 25.50, all right, it's beautiful, and we can be able to print money, right? But when we're at that 50 to 75, we have to be able to make sure that we're keeping an eye out for exhaustion, and then 75 to 100. And then even though it's extremely rare, we do see those. These are unsustainable for trend strength, often near exhaustion points, right? So now you're crossing into that. All right, I'm damn near finished a mile and a half, 2 miles, right? Can I keep going to the third mile, right? Can I keep going to the fourth mile before reaching that exhaustion point? So let's go ahead and look at ADX for the history of SPY. SPY is the S&P 500. Weekdays, we had 15 of them, and this is throughout the last 30 days, right? And that's what I kind of saw as well, just looking at the dailies. Developing strong and very strong 0. So the market closed the year out and bringing into the year just kind of low ranging areas. So recent, again, as we talked about before, we've been in a weak ranging environment if we're just looking at ADX, right? So ADX trend, we see that ADX is falling. Interpretation, trend is weakening. Prepare for a potential consolidation or reversal. Let's go ahead and take our quiz. Oh, before we take our quiz, I want to go into ADX zones a little bit more, right? So I have a file in order to assist us with that. So ADX zones, so I want us to be able just to really get into this, because we need to be able to understand what these numbers are telling us, right? So let's say if I have a zone of 44, right? So this is the trend is on. This is where we want to trade. This is what this means for trading. The trend is confirmed and tradable. Best zones for trend following. Trade in the direction of the directional index and hold positions and let winners run, right? So here is our indicator. Here's our scale, and when we have ADX of 44, that is letting us know that we're in a strong zone, right? We can print money in this zone, right? So let's go ahead and put another one. So remember, we're averaging right now about ADX of 11 throughout these past couple of weeks for the market. So that's letting us know we're in a weak area. There's really no trend, right? The market is asleep, so it's hibernating. Prices are choppy and directionalist. Trend following strategies will definitely fail here. We're either going to stay out or trade our range trading strategies, and we're going to wait for ADX to start raising a bit, right? So the interesting thing here, let's say if we're at 17, what does 17 tell us? Trends are starting to wake up. We're going to watch closely. Trends may be forming, but not confirmed yet. This is when we're at the 17, the 15 to 25 range. Maybe we're going to bring in some different confirmations, right? Whether that be volume, whether that be volatility, whether that be actually figuring out which way the price is going, right? So when we're at these low levels here, yes, the trend is starting to develop, but you just want to make sure you confirm it. So let's do one more, right? So let's do 88. Extreme trend, right? Trend may be damn near nearing exhaustion. So think about it this way. The trend has been running for damn near half a mile, right? Half of a marathon over 5K, right? Depending on how you train for it, it's not, is it nearing as exhaustion or is it about to get its second kick, right? So it can start going, even though, hey, you're definitely in a strong trend, right? Unsuspendable for trend strength, often near the blow off or tops or bottom. We either want to take profit or tighten the stop losses and prepare for a potential reversal, right? Because damn near it's at the end of its peak, right? So it has one way to go, really has two way to go, right? So it can bounce a little bit further up, but you either want to TP or set your stop losses super tight when you're at these high ADX levels. All right, beautiful. So let's go back to our lesson. So ADX rating of 18 suggests that what? Aggressively trade the trend. That is hilarious. Be cautious. The trend is weak or developing. Short the market immediately, right? We're thinking that the market is going to go down. So maybe not. I want to say be cautious, right? And the trend is weakening or developing. Remember, we just went over that. So we're going to go ahead and put B. ADX of 18 is below the 25, indicating a weak trend strength. Wait for ADX to be greater than 25 for the trend to actually, or work for a strong trend confirmation. And if we are going to trade between that 15 and 25 range, right, we just want to make sure that we have confirmation, right? So ADX is raising from 30 to 35. This means that the trend is weakening, the trend is strengthening, or the price's direction is starting to change, right? So one thing we can automatically throw out is ADX tell us the price direction, right? ADX tells us how strong the trend is. So C we can throw out by process of elimination. Now we're going to get into the weeds of it. So we know that weak trends are from 0 to about 15. Trends that are developing from about 15 to 25, right? And then from 25 higher, we're in our trend zone. We're in our zone for trend following strategies, right? So when it's going from 30 to 35, that's letting us know that the trend is strengthening, not really weakening. If it was going the opposite direction from 35 to 30, then I would go into the school of thought that it's weakening. But since we see here that's getting a little bit more strengthening, right? We're going to go with the trend is strengthening. So raising ADX means that the trend, whichever direction, is getting stronger. Falling ADX means that it is weakening. So ADX above 70, what is this letting us know? This is the best time to enter a new trade. Depending on how you trade in the market, it is this sign of extremely strong potential unstable trend, right? Impossible ADX never goes that high. ADX does definitely go that high, right? It is rare. It is improbable. It's not impossible. One of those things, right? It's rare and it does happen. So we can eliminate C. Right, the best time to enter into a new trade is depending on that strategy, right? So this is a little bit more specific than general, so I'm going to eliminate that. This is a sign that the extremely strong trend, I can agree with that, and potentially unstable for the trend because we may be in a reversal coming up soon, right? So let's go ahead and go with B. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let's go to our next lesson. Our next lesson is we're going to get into the weeds of the directional indicators, right? So while ADX tells us the trend strength, the directional indicators plus DI minus DI indicators tells you the trend direction. Together they form the complete trend analysis. So understanding directional indicators or the directional strength. Directional indicators measures the upward directional movement. Higher values equals stronger bullish pressure calculated from the high minus the previous high, right? So for bullish, for plus directional indicators, they're extremely bullish pressures, right? So they're thinking the market is going to go up. And in order to calculate it, we're going to get the high minus the previous high, right? And then the negative or minus directional indicator, it measures the downward directional movement. Higher values equals stronger bearish pressure. They're thinking the market is going to go down, or sellers are trying to push the market down, and it's calculated from the previous low minus the low. So rating the indicators, if the positive or plus directional indicator is greater than the minus directional indicator, we're at a bullish trend. And then the inverse, if the minus directional indicator is greater than the positive or plus directional indicator, we're in a bearish trend. The crossover signals potential for trend changes. So the complete picture, combining ADX, which is how strong the trend is, And then the directional movement, right, is letting us know which way the trend is going, gives us both the strength and the direction, right? So an ADX that has the plus greater than the minus and that's greater than 25, we have a strong bullish trend, right? Because we're adding the direction and now we have the strength. So direction is telling me bullish and then the strength is telling me strong. So strong bullish trend, right? So the direction is telling me bearish because the minus is in front, and it's also telling me strong. So strong bearish trend. ADX of 25 or less than 25, excuse me, trend is weak regardless of the directional relationship. That's when you're probably going to need your confirmation if it's less than 25. So we're going to look at SPY, the S&P 500 throughout these past couple of days in order to see or understand ADX. So the current directional analysis is that we have the plus greater than the minus. So we're in bullish. So we have a bullish, right? A bullish weak trend, right? So it's showing upward pressure, but it's weak. So we have a bullish weak trend that's what's forming. I mean, you can trade it, but again, you probably want to use confirmations for this. So looking at the directional relationship plus ADX, right? We can see here throughout these past couple of weeks, we haven't had any strong movements, right? But we had it did flip a bit for the bears and the bulls, and it seemed like the bulls are a lot more in charge of the market than these bears if you're looking from the 18th throughout the 9th, right? So the trend hasn't been strong, but it did flip a couple of times. Recent crossovers is the bullish crossover happened on the 22nd. Then New Year's Eve, it went bullish, it went bearish. Then on the 6th, it went bullish again. So let's go ahead and take our quiz. When the directional plus directional indicator is above the minus directional indicator, this tells us what, right? We just looked at it here, right? We're in a bullish trend is starting. Yep, we talked about it. The bullish trend is starting. The best trading setup is the directional indicator is greater so the plus directional indicator is greater than the minus directional indicator, and ADX is greater than 25. So we have a strong bulls are in control, right? And strong trend, right? And then we have here the bulls are in control, but a weak trend. And then ADX of 50 regardless of the directional setup. I mean, it's all depending, right? We may be going into signs of exhaustion here, so this may need a little bit more confirmation. So if you want to talk about the absolute best setup, I'm going to go with A because the bulls are in control, and then we have a strong trend. But here we have, yes, the bulls are in control, but it is a weak trend, right? Here, this is a strong trend, but I don't know who's in control, right? So I'm going to go with A, the best setup. We want both directions. The bulls are in control, and we have a strong trend. So let's go ahead and explain this. We have if DI is 35 and plus DI is 15, this indicates so bears are in control, right? Because minus DI is greater than positive DI. So the bears are in control. So this lets us know that we have a strong bearish pressure. All right, so let's go ahead. What's this? So we're almost there. Professional traders use ADX to filter trades and time entries. Here are the most effective ADX strategies. We have a trend following, strength strategy, right? And we're going to be creating a strategy using Trading View, and we're going to get there. So we just have one more lesson to get through. Then we're going to go to our strategy. Do we have a DI crossover with ADX confirmation? This is an interesting one, right? When the DI crossovers wait for the entries, then we have ADX for the confirmation. What does this let you know? Okay, who's in control, right? Did it cross over from the bears to the bulls or from the bulls to the bears? And do we have strong strength, right? So that's an interesting one to be able to consider. And then we have breakout confirmation. ADX is rising, confirmed by the breakout validity. And then we have trend exhaustion. Whenever we're at the extreme levels, often precedes reversal. So it's a little baby mean reversal strategy shrouded under trend exhaustion. So analyzing the current SPY, right, we have weak ADX. So we have here trends are falling or it's weak. And then we have the bulls are greater then the bears. So we have the bulls are in control. So recommended approach, avoid trend following. ADX is too low. Consider range of bound strategies or staying out. So the trend filter strategy says you should trade all the time regardless of ADX. I don't know about that. This is a trend filter strategy, right? So it wants you to be able to trade with the trends, right? Only trade when trades are greater than 25 ADX because we have a strong trend, not a weak trend. All right. For the ADX crossover strategy entry, you want to see the ADX crossover and ADX rising. Just ADX crossover, DI crossover. The ADX doesn't matter. ADX falling. So we want to be able to see that it's going from the bears to the bulls or the bulls to the bears. And we also want to be able to have it confirming with strong trend strength, right? So I'm going to say A. Best signals combined with the crossover, and we have the trend strength. So when ADX reaches 60 and starting to decline, you should aggressively add to your position, considering taking profits or tightening stop loss. Ignore it. ADX levels doesn't matter. So why are we doing this? That's just ridiculous. So we're going to throw that out. I'm going to say consider TPs, right? Consider taking your profits or tightening your SLs or stop loss. Beautiful. And here's our last lesson. Now putting it all together, ADX allows us to be able to know the strength, right? And then directional indicators allows us to be able to know who's in control, the bears and the bulls, right? So let's go ahead and confirm this one more time. This is the daily time frame. We're looking at SPY, which is the current price of 694, an ADX of 953 lets us know that we're in a weak bullish market, right? So the trend is letting us know that is weak and ranging, and then there's no clear trend, right? So now let's go ahead and go to our back test, right? So before we review our back test, let me show you where I actually got it from. So this is going to be kind of cool. So let's go to Trading View real quick. And this is QQQ, and QQQ is the top 100 tech companies within the NASDAQ, right? So what I did is I'm looking at it on Trading View on the 1 minute chart. So what that means is that each one of these candlesticks represents 1 minute of actions between the buyers and the sellers, right? We have a red candlestick. This means that the sellers or the bears were in control. Or we have a green candlestick. That means that the buyers or the bulls are in control. So I went up here, I clicked on indicators, and then I went ahead and put ADX. And then what I'm looking for is just a strategy that we can use. Let's just go ahead and you see this turtle strategy. I thought that was interesting. So turtle strategy, triple EMA. So triple EMA, which is the exponential moving average. So this is going to be using triple EMA, exponential moving average, and then ADX in order to get the strength, and then ATR to let us know which price or which direction are we going in, right? So let's go ahead and look at our back test real quick. So this is an ADX based and momentum continuation strategy for 0 DTE strategies, 0 DTE options. So let's break this down because there's a lot in this first sentence. So ADX allows us to be able to measure the strength of the momentum, right? Momentum, that could be momentum downward or momentum upward, right? So it allows us to be able to see how strong that momentum is. And I'm trading 0 DTE strategy. 0 DTE letting us know that these are option contracts that expire the same day. And we're using the average directional index to confirm the trend strength before entering into a momentum trades on the EMA stack, the exponential moving average. So the core concept is ADX measures how strong the trend is, not the direction. We're going to combine the EMA stack alignment, and we only trade when the EMA confirms the direction. So the EMA stack that we're using is at the 3, 8, and 15 for calls, or the inverse for puts. And then ADX confirms the strength. 25 is the threshold. Remember, we've been baking that in. Anything greater than 25 will let us know we're actually in a strong strength zone, and then ATR confirms the volatility, and if the price breaks above the bar high and low, this is the momentum trigger. So here's our ADX components. we're using ADX with a period of 7. So we're using the last 7 minutes in order to confirm, or excuse me, last 7 minutes in order to gauge how strong the trend is, right? And then we have the directional indicators as well in order to figure out if the bulls or bears are in control. And here's our EMA stack. We're using our fast EMA, which is going to use 3 minutes. Our medium EMA is going to use 8 minutes, and then our slow EMA is going to use 15. And here's everything that has to line up in order for a call. We are bullish on the market. We think the market is going to go up for calls, or a put when we're bearish on the market. We think the market is going to go down. ATR gate, this lets us know which way the price is going, right? So we're using ADX and ATR and EMA, so 3 indicators. So here's a visual of what's going to be happening, right? So the EMA 3 and the EMA 8 and the EMA 15, the price breaks above the prior high. And then the ADX strength is 35, so that's greater than 25. And then the ATR is above it. So this is for a call setup, right? And here's for a put setup. And then here's our exit rules, right? And how we're going to exit. So ATR stop loss, meaning that whenever we have a basically explaining it, right? We have a stop loss cap of 12%. So if the position goes against us and it starts going negative, I'm going to allow you to go negative at 12%. Anything above that, just cut our losses and let's go to the next place. And then we have a take profit, 2 of them, which is going to be ATR based, or we have a take profit of 15%. And then maximum hold time is going to be 3 minutes. So within 3 minutes, we either have to take profit, is going to stop loss, or we're just going to sell out the market, right? We don't want our theta decay to be able to chop us up when we're trading this strategy. And here's the trade cycle. So we're going to wait for the conditions to align. We're going to enter. We're only doing 1 trade per day. And then we're going to monitor once we're in the position for our ATR stop loss, our hard stop loss, ATR take profit, or then our regular take profit, or a 3-minute timer. So it has 3 minutes to either of these 4 things to happen. First condition hit, we're going to exit, and then we are done for the day. Only 1 trade per day. And here's our position management. All of our properties, all of our strategies, unless told otherwise, are starting at $100, right? Because we want to be able to dispel the notion that you need thousands of dollars in order to trade options. You don't, right? Especially when it comes to algo trading. So here's another rule. What is algo trading? Algo trading is just a set of rules and instructions a computer follows in order to buy and sell options, right? So this is the rules and instructions, right? So when it comes to being able to algo trade, we're using ADX as part of those rules and instructions because we've been honing in on that. So here's our tier level. If it's less than $500, you're using 88% of the balance in order to grow it. Anywhere between 500 and 1,000, 55%, and anything greater than 1,000, 22%. And again, just to be able to hone in on this, this is educational content. This is not financial advice. Trading involves substantial risk, and you are solely responsible for your decisions. So these are the libraries that we're using in order to bring it in, create the strategy. We had to create our own backtest strategy, our own backtest file, because backtrader.py. All the other Python libraries didn't work, fam. So we had to create our own. So we're using QQQ. Remember, like we talked about before, the top 100 tech companies within the NASDAQ. Starting balance is going to be $100. The minimum balance to trade is going to be $25. And then our trading window is going to be between 9:33 and 11:38. So the strategy has just about 2 hours, right? Just over 2 hours, 2 hours and 5 minutes in order to find a signal, get in that signal. You have 3 minutes to either make me money. If you're losing, get the hell out, right? And this is a back test. I don't know if I explained that. What is a back test? A back test is being able to take your strategy, drop it off in a time machine, and seeing how well it performs. And you want to gauge how well it performs on historic or past data. If it does well in the past, the school of thought is that it will do well in the present. There's no guarantees when it comes to trading, right? But you want to back test your strategy before even creating a bot. And this is something that I have created for my process, right? Even though we're going over Kreative U and being able to talk about like how does ADX work, this is my process when it comes to being able to build a bot. I just don't go to build a bot. You have to be able to start with your idea, right? Then you backtest your idea. Then if I need machine learning, I use that. Then the 6th step, right, or the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th step is being able to develop a bot. You don't start here, right? You start here, you're damn near going to get wrecked, right? You want to be able to have your strategy and really flush it through. So this is our strategy we're going to be back testing. We talked about our EMA thresholds. I feel like I've been talking a lot about this strategy. Let's go ahead and like see it actually run now, right? Beautiful. I can close you out. All right, so let's actually run our strategy. We're running it on 2023. Again, just to be able to let you know, this is not financial advice. If you do see financial advice, please make sure you talk to a certified financial planner, a financial advisor, or those that are licensed in order to assist you. We're loading in our data. So data loading in, and now we're going to be running our back test. Keep in mind that the strategy did start at $100, right? And we're going to be loading in, and as soon as it loads here, it's going to fly. There we go. Strategy is going. Right. All right. Let's review it. So I know this looks ridiculous. I know this looks ridiculous, but when you have a strategy that works and it does everything well for you, like why not? Right. So starting balance is $100. So this strategy was able to go from $100 to $179,211.18. Kind of crazy. Max drawdown. This is broken. That needs to be fixed. So at one point in time, the strategy lost $2,700, but it's supposed to be a percentage of its down. So that needs to be fixed. And then the total trades were 251. Out of the 251 trades, we won 82% or 206, right? And it did lose money. It did lose trades. 45% of trades were lost. But it felt so bad about losing trades that this profit factor here, right? For every dollar that it lost in those 45, it made $19 back, which is kind of crazy. The average trade was $713, so not super crazy. And then the average winner was $916. The average loser, even if you triple that, right, it can't touch the average winner, which I love seeing. ROI statistics, average ROI is about 17%. Maximum ROI that we reached was 111%, and then the minimum ROI is about 17%. Max hold time. So this strategy is on average is getting out of position in 2 minutes, well under our 3-minute maximum hold time. So calls were able to have 102 trades. They brought in 62,000, but puts had 49 trades, and that brought in, that's 117,000, right? Yeah, I'm not tripping. $117,041, right? So the majority of the work came from the calls. And our exit reasons, we had 157 TPs, time stop 70, and then we had a few stop losses, but not that much. And then our ADX statistics, our average ADX at entry was 36, right? Well above our ADX threshold. So I think this is a good stopping point where we were able to create a strategy, being able to go over what ADX is, and who knows, maybe I'm actually going to create the bot for this. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. As we are building out this community here, and I want us to be able to learn together, grow together, right? And being able to understand what these different indicators mean. So we talked about ADX. One thing just to keep in mind, ADX measures what? I hear somebody say direction, you fighting. It measures the trend strength, right? So being able to have ADX greater than 25 lets you know that we're in a strong trend following strategy. So it is your boy Creative. I will be back at it again with another episode. If you haven't already, please make sure that you like and subscribe. I appreciate you.